Hello, welcome to Her Wild Side Hockey Podcast. I am your hostess, Mikki, and we are through 2 days of free agency. Yesterday, I wasn't sure I was going to survive. There was so much happening. I know I was watching the coverage on ESPN, and they were talking about how last year there were like 30-some deals, like contracts signed in the first hour of free agency. This year, that number doubled. They were like 63. And throughout the whole day, it was like 118 or maybe even more. I mean, it was just wild. My phone was just going crazy. And even though the Wild didn't do a ton, still just to have, everything. So we are obviously going to start with free agency, all of that, the things that the Wild have done, the few things. We're going to talk about kind of the depth chart, if there's anything else kind of coming up. And you got to stick around to the end here because today I watched the schedule release video. It inspired me because I was like, Middleton and Faber together are like the funniest duo. But like, who do they remind me of? And I went through like multiple different like cartoons and stuff that I grew up with. And I landed on, should I tell you or should it be a surprise? I'll tell you. I landed on Arthur, as in like the Arthur books and the Arthur TV show. So stick around until the end because you are going to want to hear who I assigned each member of the Wild Defensive Corps from the Arthur world. But free agency. So far, the Wild have done one kind of bigger signing. Yakov Trenin, it was a 3-something million for 4 years, which is interesting. We all knew that Bill was going to sign somebody to, a scoring wing. But I figured it would be like a 1-year deal. So this is interesting. But you know what? If this is going to help, because they were talking about breaking up the top line so that Zuccarello can kind of use Kaprizov to get his scoring back up, basically. But if we have someone like Yakov Trenin, maybe he and Zuccarello together can get some kind of, chemistry going. I don't know a ton about Trenin, but I do know everyone keeps telling me that he is really funny and he's got great vibes. So I'm excited for that. The Wild also signed 8 players that are mostly going to be playing down the depth chart, like mostly down in Iowa, but a lot of veteran presence so that, first of all, Iowa, last year, they were doing so terribly. And part of it wasn't their fault. Part of it was they were so young. It was such a young team because everybody who was a veteran was pulled up to Minnesota, basically. So they're just kind of floundering almost. So they just need more veteran presence down there. And they also need, most of these guys have played at least a handful of games in the NHL. A couple of them have played a good amount of games. So we know that if we get injuries, hopefully not like last year, knock on wood, we can safely pull them up because they have experience. And now I didn't know any of these names, and I'm just going to, I'm not going to go through every single person because I already wrote a whole article about it. I will link it in the show notes. I'm going to write down that I'm going to link it because otherwise I forget. So link, article, 8 signings. There we go. But they signed 5 forwards, a mix of center and wingers, 2 defensemen, and a goalie. Now the goalie is where it gets interesting because now there are 5 goalies on NHL contracts. We've got Wallstead, we've got Fleury, we've got Gustafsson, and then we have, the name is not coming to me, but goalie, he did so good in Worlds. I'm going to move on. And then now this new goalie. So at that point, what does that mean? Where is Wallstead? Are we going to carry a 3-goalie rotation? Honestly, like I've said, I'm good with that. I really think that's the best option. I'm not going to harp on it because I've already talked about it before, but it is something interesting to keep an eye on. And then the last thing that technically happened yesterday, but they didn't announce it until today, which was kind of funny because we all knew it was coming. I actually had already written up a whole draft of an article for this, and I was simply waiting to like make sure I had the right numbers and then press publish. It's the Middleton extension. So basically 4x4. And I know some people are complaining. Middleton, first of all, we all know off the ice, he's an absolute gem. He is so funny and so down to earth. But on the ice last year, he and Faber were the ones that held the defensive core together. As everybody was in and out with injuries, the two of them, I mean, there were nights that Faber played a few more minutes, but, you know, when he played like 25, 26, 27, Minty was right behind him. You know, Faber would maybe get a little more power play time, but Middleton was right up there with, you know, 25 minutes. So he showed how valuable he is. And I've said before, he feels so Minnesotan. He feels like he is from Minnesota. And he stays here over the summer. His wife has a job here. And he really feels like he is just like enmeshed in the Minnesota culture. And I love that. I am now going to do a little pause here just to put up my little Ticketmaster thing. Here is our QR code. I show it every single episode. Again, if you are ever buying any tickets via Ticketmaster, we would love if you used our QR code or our link in the show notes so we can, you know, take a little cut of the profits from Ticketmaster. Yeah, I'm not going to harp. I mean, I do it every week, every episode. Okay, now with some of these signings and extensions, now we're taking a look at the depth chart. And the numbers ain't mathin'. We got way too many forwards. After bringing in Trennan, and then remember on draft day 2, Bill traded for Jacob Lauko from the Boston Bruins. So we bring him in too. And he's definitely an NHL guy. Like, I don't think they're going to stick him down in the AHL. So who goes? It's not mathin'. So then we get into possible trades. Now, I didn't look up the details, but I know that pretty much everyone, Johansson, Goudreau, Hartman, Foligno, all of the guys that kind of signed an extension last season, all of them have like no trade or no move clauses, things that mean that, you know, Bill Guerin can't just decide to trade them. Because honestly, it would be really nice to trade. I mean, if I had my pick, it would be Johansson. And part of that is just because like, I really like the other 3 guys, and Jojo is just a little more like quieter. Like he's not like doing the super funny stuff on social media. But also he struggled so much last year. And I just feel like that's kind of how it keeps going with him. But the fear is that a possible trade, you know, there have been all these rumors swirling about trading Rossi. And Michael Russo, you know, he talked about for a while, it was really a lot was kind of percolating for Rossi in a possible trade. And then the last I heard, he kind of said that it sounded like that wasn't like they were kind of pulling back, like they were going to keep Rossi. But again, who do they get rid of? I feel that they have to trade somebody. Now, that also means, are we getting all the way down into the goalies where we are trading Philip Gustafsson? We're running out of teams. And I mean, I say that like I'm in favor of a trade. I am not. But all the teams that needed goalies, they've basically all got goalies. And the ones that signed more goalies, most of them were signing someone to be like a third goalie or, you know, to be a definite backup. So, you know, there's not as many places to land for Gustafsson, which is good. I want him here. I like him. I think that he's going to get over his sophomore slump. I think we need to just put faith in that, and people need to move on because I'm really tired of people harping on it. Okay, now I know that all of you are as excited as I am to talk about the Arthur characters. First, I'm going to play a little commercial. Okay, it's only a minute long, folks, so it's not like I'm sitting here harping in your ear, but I will be back in just a minute.
Thank you for watching the show. If you enjoy our podcast and want to support the show, consider signing up for ESPN Plus via our link at insidetherink.com/ESPN or scan the QR code on your screen now. I have ESPN Plus, and I personally love all the college sports, UFC, MLB, and NHL games all across ESPN platforms. Over 1,000 out-of-market NHL games are on ESPN Plus every year. Make sure you hit the QR code or go to insidetherink.com/ESPN to make sure you don't miss out on any of this year's NHL action. And if that wasn't enough for you, ESPN Plus is currently offering a bundle of ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, and Hulu for $14.99 a month. You get sports, the kids get Disney, and Hulu is the added bonus. It's the perfect bundle. I personally have it, and I don't know what you would do without it.
Welcome back. So I did realize there was one other thing I was going to touch on about free agency, which is just I was going to kind of go through previous Wild players and where they've landed. So Connor Dewar, he was traded to the Maple Leafs at trade deadline. It sounds like he's staying. They gave him a qualified offer. I'm assuming he's going to sign it and stay there. Dakota Mermis, actually right before I started recording, it looks like he is headed to the Leafs. It has not been officially announced, but he apparently was listed on their active roster, which I love. Dakota Mermis, if we could have kept him, I would have, because just he has worked so hard, and it's like he's finally gotten into the NHL. Unfortunately, you know, it took having 10 billion injuries for him to do that. And the captain's curse, the curse of the Iowa Wild captain. But to hear that he got an NHL deal, and obviously we don't know the details yet, but I'm so happy for him. Jake Lucchini was signed by the Nashville Predators. The Nashville Predators apparently have $10 bajillion because they keep signing people, and I don't know where they're pulling all this money from. I understand that the Minnesota Wild salary cap, you know, is significantly less, you know, because of all the dead money, but still, like, the Predators, like, they're signing big names, big contracts. Can we have some of the money? Like, come on. They would never give us money. Pat Maroon signed in Chicago. Brandon Duhaime signed with the Washington Capitals, and that was a 2-year deal, which I was happy to see him get just, you know, more than a 1. And then possibly the funniest possible outcome. Dallas Stars buy out the last year of Ryan Suter's contract. And then they turn around and they sign Matt Dumba. It's like they're trolling their own fans. Stars fans hate Matt Dumba because a couple of years ago in the playoffs, he hit Joe Pavelski. It was a legal hit. He took a 2-minute, but it was not a dirty hit. Everyone thought it was. It was not. There was discourse swirling. Everybody hated Dumba. They kept that grudge because Dallas fans keep their grudges. And now he's a part of the team. And the way I laughed, I can't. It's just like cosmic humor. So the schedule release came out today. And as we had kind of been thinking from the picture that they had first posted, they took everybody's favorite duo, Brock Faber and Jake Middleton, to Valley Fair. And I had forgotten, because they did announce this, I had forgotten that the Minnesota, Hockey Day Minnesota, they are playing at Valley Fair. So it makes really sense, like really a lot of sense that they went there for this. So they, oh, hold on, my dog is scratching at the door. I'm going to, okay, welcome Ralph to the podcast. my husband is cooking downstairs, and we have these really dumb smoke detectors that are set off really easily, and Ralph is terrified of them. And he has since kind of connected the fact that if my husband is cooking something that he can hear, you know, like sizzling, he's terrified. So he was scratching at the door because I was really mean and I shut the door on him. But here he is. I don't think he'll be any trouble. I'll have to post another picture of Ralph because he's adorable. So the schedule release. They go on all sorts of different rides at Valley Fair. So funny. My favorite was the merry-go-round. Watching just the absolute glee on Jake Middleton's face as he rode that horse around the merry-go-round. Like, just, again, like, both of them are just gems. Just beauties. But so I got to thinking, and I went through a bunch of different shows. I was thinking about, like, okay, were they, their relationship, could I compare it to something from, like, and I'm thinking of cartoons that I watched when I was younger, like Doug, Recess. I even was like maybe the Peanuts gang, like Charlie Brown. And I finally landed on Arthur. Arthur, I actually still love the Arthur show. I do have kids, but even without kids, I still would watch it because it's just so good. But Arthur is amazing. We know that having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card. We also learned how to spell A-A-R-D-V-A-R-K, aardvark, and it brought us so many things. And so here, I'm going to let you know, I'm going to start with Jake Middleton. Jake Middleton is Binky because he's a big guy and he's just kind of happy-go-lucky. You know, Binky's very happy-go-lucky. At the same time, and I want to say, like, neither Jake Middleton nor Binky are stupid, but they just kind of, like, they're just vibing, you know? They just have, like, this aura of vibing. At the same time, though, both Binky and Middleton can look a little scary. You know, they're kind of a little threatening. Binky started off, he's in that gang. I don't remember what the gang is called, but I mean, they're a little scary. And same with Middleton. So then I was like, okay, but then who would Brock Faber be? Brock Faber is Buster Baxter because they're just both, you know, again, happy-go-lucky, a little odd, but, you know, and Buster and Binky together, they get along. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to extend this to the whole defensive core because I'm sure that I could do that, and I can. So Jared Spurgeon, right away, I was like, he's Arthur. He's Arthur. He's the leader of the pack. Arthur, yeah, obviously, it's all about him. It's his show. And Spurgeon, he, just like Arthur gets made fun of for his glasses, Spurgeon gets made fun of for how short he is. But they both move past that, you know. Arthur's okay with his glasses. Spurgeon knows he's short. It's not a, you know, it's not hidden from him. And they both just, they lead the way. John Merrill is Muffy. And I don't really know why. He gives us like princess vibes. Declan Chisholm is the brain. Like he seems kind of, I don't know. Again, I can't explain it, but like he is the brain. So then I was like, Zach Bogosian was a difficult one. And I sat and I was like, well, who? And I wanted to stick with like the older characters, not the ones that have been introduced since, because, you know, they have more friends and stuff now. But I finally came up, I said, you know what? Zach Bogosian is Francine Frensky. They both are kind of rough and tumble. They like to, you know, be outside, and but they're still a really good friend. They're still there for, you know, the rest of their buddies. And then I thought, okay, someone has to be DW. Dora Winifred Reed is iconic. There must be somebody that could be DW. And then I thought, you know what? DW is the little sister. You know who's kind of like the little one? Damon Hunt. I just, you know, and I could see, I mean, like, Damon Hunt is sassy, just like DW. And they're both into fashion. So that just seemed completely obvious to me. Now, hold on just a minute. And then last of all here, we've got Jonas Brodin. And to me, Jonas Brodin is George. I don't remember George's last name, but George is the moose. He's a little bit awkward. He's a little bit, he's quiet, just like Brodin is quiet. But he's quirky. George he's a ventriloquist. He has a puppet that he brings around with him. And I just feel like Brodin probably I mean, like, he's a closet Swiftie. Not really closet. I mean, like, he lets everybody know. But, you know, when they asked him what's his favorite song, he's like, All Too Well, the 10-minute version. And obviously that is kind of the sign of someone who's really a Swiftie. At least to me. I'm not really a Swiftie, although I like her. So that is kind of what I came up with. I mean, well, let's see. Who would be Mr. Ratburn? Like, I don't know John Hines' You know what? Mr. Ratburn is Bill Guerin. Because, obviously, they're both the leaders of the organizations. But they're kind of like loud, large and in charge. Mr. Ratburn loves to put on plays, and he's also a puppeteer. There's like a lot of puppets happening in the Arthur world. And he is not going to let anyone else change his mind on things, or, you know, he loves to spring tests on people. He's very like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's not going to come to me. But Bill Guerin is too. They're not afraid to make a decision. And I respect that. I'm not like that, but I respect that. So Mr. Ratburn is definitely Bill Guerin. And I feel like I could keep going, and maybe I will with forwards. But this episode needs to be done because I have other things to do. Happy early 4th of July. I probably will not be back till Thursday with a new episode. I will be celebrating. Why not? Go to a parade. Okay, so thank you, as always, for listening. I love each and every one of you that listen. It really means something to me that people want to consume content that I make. And I love it very much, and I don't take it for granted. So until next time, I will see you later. I love you all.